A businessman arrived at his office and found that some very important documents had disappeared from his desk. Police suspect 3 people: Amy, Carla, and Mike. Each of them said, however, that they hadn't even been to the office. Who was lying? It was Mike. Both Amy and Carla are wearing high heels, while the dirty footprints on the floor were clearly left by sneakers. The king of a faraway kingdom was getting old and started to think of announcing his heir. He had 3 daughters, each with her own virtues, and the king couldn't decide which of them would be the best queen. Then one of his counselors suggested an idea. The king should give each of his daughters a teapot filled with water, and the daughter whose pot started to boil first would be proclaimed the heiress. When the day of decision came, the 3 princesses started boiling water. 2 of them really wanted to become the next queen, but in the end, the one that didn't want the throne won the competition. How did that happen? The 2 princesses who lost were a bit too eager. They constantly raised the lids of their pots to check if the water was boiling. And the third didn't care, so the water in her pot began boiling first. In the busiest street of a big city, there was a shoe cleaner who got lots of clients. He offered his services to everyone for free, but anybody who stopped and took his offer left him money before heading off again anyway. Why did they do that? He cleaned only 1 shoe for free, and if the client wanted their second shoe cleaned, they had to pay. Aaron was a poor teacher in a rural school. On the 13th of February, the day before St. Valentine's, he unexpectedly received a letter saying that his rich great-aunt had left him a huge inheritance. The next day, 3 of his colleagues, Sarah, Carrie, and Martha, sent him love letters. Can you tell who was genuinely in love with him and who was only pretending to take advantage of his newfound wealth? Carrie was the honest one. She's wearing a necklace with A and C engraved on it, which stands for Aaron and Carrie. Clearly, Aaron gave it to her as a gift because they'd been dating even before he got the inheritance. Jonathan spent several days in a hospital, although he never even entered the place through any doors. What's more, when he was released, he was perfectly healthy, but still had to be carried out of there. Why? Because Jonathan was a newborn baby. A village in the far north has found itself in big trouble. Someone has poisoned the lake, which was the only source of drinking water for the dwellers. When the police arrived to the place, all they saw was a set of weird prints on the snow. There were footprints between 2 parallel lines. They didn't know the name of the culprit, but they at least knew who they had to look for. Can you follow their logic? The police were looking for a person in a wheelchair and their helper. The wheels would leave those parallel lines, and the helper had to push the chair and would leave the footprints. Jack and his business partner decided to celebrate a very profitable contract they'd recently signed. They both loved hiking, so Jack suggested going to the Alps for a climbing trip. His partner gladly agreed, and Jack took it upon himself to arrange their little vacation. However, the trip went terribly wrong, and Jack's partner got lost in the mountains. Jack couldn't find him, and neither could the rescuers. But upon returning home, Jack was arrested after the police got a call from his travel agent. Why? The travel agent told the investigators that Jack only bought one return ticket for himself. For his partner, he bought a one-way ticket. Someone had broken into Mr. Jenkins' house and taken all his valuables while he was on vacation. His neighbor, Mr. Brown, called the police to tell them about it because he'd witnessed the event. He said he'd come back from work late and saw the lights were on in Mr. Jenkins' house. Mr. Brown knew his neighbor was away, so he carefully approached the window to look inside. The glass was frosted over, so he breathed on it to melt the ice and saw a man in a gray hoodie stuffing valuables into a blue backpack. Then Mr. Brown ran home and called the police. The officers listened to the story and immediately arrested Mr. Brown. Why? The dutiful neighbor had one detail wrong in his story. Windows become frosted over from inside. Then how could he have melted the frost with his breath from the outside? One rainy morning, Miss Riley left her house in a hurry and forgot some very important documents on her desk. She came back in an hour, but the document was gone. She gathered everyone who was in the house that day and questioned them. Ryan, the cook, said he'd been preparing dinner and didn't even set foot in Miss Riley's room. Sal, the janitor, said he'd only come in, turned on the lights to see if cleaning was needed, and left. Rose, the gardener, said she'd been busy watering the plants outside and didn't come into the house at all. Who took the document? It was a collective job. All of Miss Riley's employees were guilty. It was early in the day, so it would have made more sense for the cook to prepare lunch. For the same reason, the janitor wouldn't have needed to turn on the lights. And it was also raining, so the gardener wouldn't have to water the plants outside. There are 4 glasses on the table in front of you. Each of them is filled with water to the exact same level, and in each of them, there's an object. In the first glass, there's a baseball. In the second, a pencil eraser. In the third, a wristwatch. And in the fourth, a paperclip. Which of the glasses has more water than the rest? The fourth glass. If you take out the objects from their glasses, the water level will drop because they'll stop taking up the volume. The paperclip is the smallest object, so there's more water in that glass. Humanity is coming to its end. The last man on earth is going about his day, working the field, gathering wood for the fire, making supplies for the winter. At the end of the day, he's getting ready for bed when he hears a knock on the door. He isn't scared and goes to open it. Who's standing behind the door? A woman. Mark's best friend, James, lives in another city, and his birthday is soon, so Mark decides to send him a present. James loves playing golf, and Mark buys him an expensive golf club. But there's a problem. The best postal service in his town only accepts packages no bigger than 3 feet to a side, and the club is 4 feet long. Still, Mark found a solution. What was it? Mark bought a square box with a side of 3 feet and put the club inside it diagonally. Jenny's sister goes to a private party to which Jenny wasn't invited. Envious, Jenny still decides to go, but finds out there's a guard at the entrance who asks all visitors for a password. She hides around the corner and eavesdrops on the other guests. One couple approaches the guard and he says 11. They reply 9, and he lets them pass. The next visitor is a guy to whom the guard says 6. He answers with 4, and the guard lets him through. Certain that she gets the principal, Jenny comes out of the shadow. The guard looks at her and says 110. Jenny replies 108, but the guard doesn't let her through. What's the correct answer? The answer's 90. If you write 11 in Roman characters, it'll look like this, XI. 9 is its mirror image, IX. Same with 6 and 4. With 110, it's CX, and 90 is XC. A man came to the police claiming that a very valuable briefcase was forcefully taken from him in the street. When an officer asked the man if he could describe the person who had done it, the man said he was wearing a full motorcycle outfit, leather pants, a thick leather jacket, and a helmet. The culprit tore the briefcase from the man's hands, hopped on his motorbike, and left. Still, the man noticed the criminal drop something and picked it up. Turned out it was his glasses. The man took them to the police as evidence. After a few more questions, the man was taken into custody for fraud. Why? If the culprit was wearing a helmet, then how could he have lost his glasses? A married couple were staying at a hotel. One night, they had an argument, and the man went out to cool off but forgot both his room key and his phone. When he returned, he saw an unconscious man lying on the floor next to his and his wife's room door. The police arrived and questioned them both. The wife told them she'd heard a knock on the door and thought it was her husband, so she opened it right away. Then the man pushed her, so she smacked him on the head with a candle holder and closed the door from inside. Still, the police took her into custody. Why? The woman thought it was her husband, but still approached the door with a candle holder in her hands. That means she wanted to hit him with it in the first place. Lights out.
How good is your visual memory? Can you recognize the brand by just looking at the design of its can? We're about to find out. What do you say? 7-Up, Sprite, or Mountain Dew? Mountain Dew. And what about this green can? That's 7-Up. Can you recognize this beverage? Pepsi, Nestea, or Red Bull? The correct answer is Nestea. Let's take a look at this bold orange can. Can you guess the brand which belongs here? Iron Brew, Fanta, or Lipton? Fanta. What about this blue can? Does it look familiar? Pepsi. Can you recognize the brand behind this red can? Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, or Tab? See this little white stripe? That's Coca-Cola's design. Here's the next can. Sprite, Schweppes, or Nestea? What do you say? This lemon looks so familiar, doesn't it? Sprite. Great job. Shelly wants to go to a party with her classmates. She asks her father's permission, but he says, "No way. You better spend this weekend in the country with your grandparents. They've just moved to a cute new house." Shelly only uses this as an excuse to leave the house. In reality, she goes to the party. When she comes back after the weekend, Shelley's father asks her, "What were you doing at your grandparents' house?" Shelley replies, "I've been mostly studying upstairs." Her father immediately knows that Shelley's lying, but he didn't even call his parents to ask about Shelley's visit. How did he understand? Shelley said she spent her days upstairs, but her parents live in a one-story house. Bob likes orange, but at the same time, he hates it. Can you explain this mystery? Bob likes orange fruit and hates the orange color, or vice versa. This Friday, Bob returns from a business trip and finds out that his wife, Elle, disappeared. She didn't leave any clues, and all her stuff and her phone are at home. Bob calls the police. They question 4 people that they found her in recent calls. Elle's brother says, "I called her in the morning. 2 days ago, her dentist removed her last wisdom tooth. She felt severe pain and didn't go to work." Bob says, "I've just returned from my business trip. I've been in another state for a week." Elle's coworker says, "She took a day off today, but I'm not sure why." And her dentist says, "Here's an ultrasound scan of Elle's teeth made on Thursday. We're supposed to treat cavities on her wisdom tooth today, but Elle didn't show up. So I called her to postpone our meeting." Who's lying? It's the brother. According to his story, Elle got rid of her wisdom teeth on Wednesday. But this contradicts the dentist's story. Take a closer look at the scan. It was really made on Thursday. Bella sends a selfie to her new boyfriend, and he replies with this weird message. Can you help Bella figure out what's going on? Bella's boyfriend is very modest. This rebus means, "too good for me." And now, let's see if you can guess the beverage by emoji. Here's the first rebus. Any ideas? Red Bull. Great job. Let's go ahead and try to crack this code. Chocolate shake. What about this one? Strawberry milkshake. Next rebus, what do you say? 7-Up. Can you guess this beverage? It's easier than it looks. Fruit juice. If you manage to crack the next rebus, you're a genius. That's just Fanta. Let's see if you can crack this mystery. Orange juice, obviously. What about this rebus? Any ideas? Iced coffee. What about this one? The correct answer is Mountain Dew. Someone had put a sleeping curse on Glenda, the richest witch in town. It happened between 8 to 10 p.m. The police find 4 suspects among her closest friends. Jessica, her nephew, is a young witch. She doesn't have magic powers yet. Christina, Glenda's family fortune teller for 30 years. Luke, her cousin, who's in depression because his favorite dog Wanda ran away 2 weeks ago. And finally, Mr. Washington, a lawyer who helps Glenda run her business. The police officer asked them just one question. What were you doing yesterday between 8 to 10 p.m.? Here's what they tell the police. I was in the library learning new spells. I was buying some new tarot decks for my collection. I was walking my dog, Wanda. I was studying some documents in my office. Who is lying? It's Luke. His dog Wanda ran away 2 weeks ago. Kyle's parents are leaving for the weekend. He throws a little party in his family's house and invites 3 people, Tim, Sam, and Mia. The guests arrive and the party begins. At some point, Kyle notices that someone had stolen all the jewelry from his parents' bedroom. Kyle believes it must be one of the guests and questions everyone. Each guest makes 2 statements, one truth and one lie. Tim says, "I wasn't in the house when it happened. I know Mia stole the jewelry." Sam says, "Mia's the thief. I saw it. I already have enough jewelry." And finally, Mia says, "I didn't steal the jewelry. Tim tells the truth. He wasn't in the house." Who stole the jewelry? If Tim is the thief, both of his statements would have been false. If Mia is the thief, then all of Tim's statements would have been true, which is against the conditions. Therefore, Sam is the thief. Can you recognize this beverage brand? Tropicana. What about this rebus? Can you decode these emojis? Dr. Pepper. Next rebus. Any ideas? That's Lipton. I bet you can crack our next one. Easier said than done, right? That's Nescafe. Let's go ahead and solve this mystery. Cappuccino. What about this rebus? That's Minute Maid. Any idea what this might be? Starbucks. Fiona goes to the supermarket and texts her sister asking what to buy. Instead of giving a clear answer, her sister sends this. Can you guess what she means? She asks Fiona to buy Oreo cookies. Kitty comes to her flower shop early in the morning and finds out that the most expensive lilies had been stolen. She calls the police. The detective arrives at the shop and questions Kitty. Kitty says, "I closed the shop at 10 p.m. and went home. The lilies were in the shop when I was leaving." The detective finds 3 suspects and visits their houses. The guard says, "I was on duty last night. Perhaps the thief snuck into the shop when I was on another floor." A barista from the neighboring coffee shop says, "I closed my shop at 8 p.m. and went home right after that." And the cleaning lady says, "I have a severe allergy to lilies. I can't even enter this shop." Who is lying? The cleaning lady. She has a lily among her home plants, so she can't be allergic to this flower. Someone used black magic to turn a billionaire named Frank into an ice cube. Frank's wife, Sophie, calls the police. They need to hurry up to cancel the spell before Frank melts. The detective decides to talk to Sophie first. He asks, "What happened?" Sophie replies, "I don't know. He was on the phone all day. I was upstairs and I only heard some mumbling." The detective searches the crime scene and finds a note. There's a weird number combination on this note. The detective takes out his phone, calls his office, and says, "I've solved the case. I know who cursed Frank." What about you? If you decode the numbers in Frank's note, you'll get wife. Therefore, Sophie herself is the Black Witch.
A super wealthy businessman, Mr. Carl Jenkins, has been taken and left locked up all alone in a dark room. His phone's almost run out of charge, so he can only write one message. He knows that someone might spy on his phone, so he decided to write a message with a code to a high school friend, John Smith, who runs a detective agency. He remembered that in high school, they would cipher messages to each other, so he used the same technique. The message was this. Can you guess what it means? Back in high school, they would shift one letter to the right each time they needed to write a secret code. To decipher it, you need to go one letter to the left. Their alphabet looks like this. The message is, "It was Eric." Having read the message, John knew immediately who his friend was talking about. Eric is the financial director of Carl's company. He had seen him once at a party a couple of years ago, so he knew what he looked like. John decided to investigate this case himself and help his friend out. He was sure there was something secret in Carl's mansion. Somehow he thought he knew that Eric would have the key to the mansion. The receptionist, Kelly, said he would always have lunch with different business partners at 2 p.m. sharp in his favorite cafe. When the detective drove up to the cafe, he saw Eric, the man with a beard, discussing business with someone. Either of them had a briefcase next to them, and the briefcases looked similar to each other. John was waiting for Eric and the second guy to leave the cafe. They went to the car, got in, and left both briefcases on the back seat. The detective followed them. They left the car in a parking lot, and luckily, they were careless enough to leave the car open. Which briefcase should the detective grab? The one that looks brand new. While they were walking to the car, the detective spotted a few scratches on the second man's briefcase. Both briefcases were locked with a cipher. Not to make the whole thing suspicious, the detective decided not to take it and cracked the code right in the car. Can you help him open the briefcase? The code is 000. The briefcase is brand new, and Eric probably didn't have time to set a code on it yet. Plus, Eric's the one who leaves the car open and unattended in a parking lot, so no wonder he uses a default code for his briefcase. Now that the detective has the key, he heads to the mansion. The front door isn't a problem with the key in hand. The study is upstairs. He's been there before, so he remembers the stairs leading up have a secret. If you step on the wrong stair, you'll instantly fall to the basement and won't be able to escape from it yourself. What step should John mind? It's the one with the slit in the middle. When you step on it, it opens, and you get into a dark room with bats and spiders. Yikes! Alright, John is finally at the study door, and Carl would always use buttons to open it. You've got only one try. There are 3 buttons, yellow, green, and blue. Which one should the detective choose if he knows that Carl is a big fan of painting? A combination of blue and yellow gives green, so the door opens. Green light for our detective. He finally reaches the safe with top-secret documents that could help him find out the truth. Obviously, just like any other safe, it's locked with a code. It also has a warning. You can enter the code only once. If you hit the wrong code, the safe locks up forever. He's looking around for a hint, and voila! John is right. On the desk, he sees a note. It says, "Secret code," and has a combination of 3 digits, 3, something, and 1. The digit in the middle can't be seen since there's an ink stain right on it. Can you crack the code with one attempt only? The code is 371. The detective thought the code was used frequently, so the button must have been a bit worn out. He was right. Since he knew the beginning and the end, he only needed to find one more worn button. Alright, now he's got the top-secret documents he needed for his investigation. He looks through all the papers and finally finds something that looks like the document he actually needed. To take it as a hard proof, he needs to find one which is not fake. There are 4 copies. They look almost the same, but only one is real. Can you guess which one? the one in the upper left corner. It has a stamp, a signature, and it says agreement. The one next to it looks the same, but it has a spelling mistake. It says agreement. Other copies lack either a stamp or a signature. So the detective takes a closer look at this agreement and sees something about a painting bought in an auction. He suddenly understands that his friend Carl was taken so that someone could sneak into his mansion and grab that super expensive painting. He's looking at the wall with all the paintings Carl collected and realizes that no painting is missing. There are as many nails in the wall as there are paintings. Still, there's something strange about one of them. Can you spot what's wrong here? Even though all the paintings are present, there's one that lacks a frame. According to the agreement, the painting has been recently bought, and an art dealer helped Carl pick it. The expert was an honest man, and he helped Carl make sure all the other paintings in his collection were real. This time, the painting turned out to be nothing but a copy. Why did the expert suggest that Carl buy it? Although the painting cost nothing, its frame was a beautiful and expensive piece of art. The one who grabbed it definitely knew that. Now it's all clear. John has to find both Carl and the precious frame. He goes outside, trying to deduce where the person who took Carl went. Carl is looking at all the tracks on the ground. He needs to follow one of them to understand where to look for Carl. Where should he go? He's got to follow the tracks going to the left. There are 3 sets of tracks here. The first belonged to John's car. The second set belongs to a 2-wheel vehicle, and since the tracks are really thin, they were left by a bike. It seems impossible to take someone somewhere on a bike, so these must belong to a mail carrier who comes every day to bring the letters. The last set of tracks definitely belongs to a large car, so John should follow it. He's lucky and there are no turns, so he's just going straight. Half an hour later, he sees something like a castle. He drives up to it and he sees 3 moats in front of him. Here's the first one, a row full of metal stakes. How can John jump over it safely? There's a small hot air balloon nearby. John has to untie it and light the lamp to take off. Since the next moat is on fire, John thinks it's unsafe to fly over it because the air balloon doesn't fly high enough and the lamp doesn't have enough oil to go on for long. Still, he managed to cross the moat with fire easily. How did he do it? He took the sand from the air balloon's ballast and sprinkled it on the fire, extinguishing it. The last moat was filled with scalding hot lava. It took John some time to figure out how to cross it, but he managed to do it safely. How? There were a lot of stones around him. The lava torrent wasn't deep at all, so throwing stones at it, he made a tiny path to hop on. The castle was rather small inside, so the hardest thing was to actually get into it. When he entered the hall, John saw 3 doors. Above the doors, there was a sign. It said, "One of the doors leads to a labyrinth no one ever escaped. One of the doors is the exit. If you enter it, you'll have to cross all the 3 moats all over again. One of the doors has what you're looking for." When John looked at the doors, he knew immediately where his friend was. Which door did he choose? The handles were made of shiny metal, which looks cool but gathers all the fingerprints. The only door with fingerprints is the one on the left. John opens the door and sees his friend. Carl rushes out of that dark room, and while heading to the exit, they spot a few frames. Which one is Carl's? The rectangular one. The painting was rectangular, and the two other frames are square. The two friends get out of the castle, get in the car, and head to the police department. There, an officer's waiting for them. They have 3 suspects who could have possibly taken the exquisite frame. Carl and John enter the room separately. Still, they choose the same person. Who did they choose? The man on the right. Carl chooses him because it's the art expert. John chooses him because he saw him with Carl having lunch. Wow, seems like this expert's not going to work with Carl ever again. Are you up for a logo test? I have some new ones for you to test your brain again. Don't forget to keep track of your score so you can see how well you did. Okay, at first, I'll be showing you 2 logos, one correct one and one fake one. You just have to tell me which one is the correct one. Deal? Let's go then. What about this logo? Everybody's favorite HBO. Yes, of course. It's this one. Next up, GTA 5, a computer game. Can you find the correct logo? Here it is. Did you get it? What about Vodafone? Can you see it? Correct. It's the right one. What do you have to say here? What's the correct Nirvana logo? Yes, it's this one. Now, Android. Nothing complicated. Which one is it? That's the left one. Boston Celtics, a basketball team. Can you spot the correct logo? Yes, this one seems right. Can you remember the correct Dolby logo, the sound system? Here it is. What do you say about Peugeot? Can you see the one and only? Yep, right here on the left. What about Uniqlo, the clothing brand? Find it. That's the one on the right. Patagonia, what's your call? Pick the right, and you're right. Right. Think hard and find the correct logo of the Washington Commanders. Not sure if it helps, but they're a football team. So, what do you say? It's this one. Calvin Klein is super famous. Where's the correct logo? This is the one. What about Allianz, the insurance company? That's the one. Next up is the Thesaurus Dictionary. Can you see the right logo? It's this one. Mental floss. Pick the right logo, please. Yeah, it's the left one. Change of task. I'll show you a logo and you have to name it. Do you think you know them all? We'll see. Here's the first one. It's quite easy. Do you remember it? Correct. It's the New York Yankees, a baseball team. Great job. Not hard at all. Who is this woman? It's the woman featured in the logo of Columbia Pictures. I hope you got it right. This one is quite famous. That's Fairy, a dishwasher gel. Okay, do you know this brand? It's Lululemon. Can you remember where this bird comes from? Or maybe at least the name of this bird? That's a cardinal, and the team is the Arizona Cardinals. What do you say here? That's UC Browser. What about this one? Pontiac, an American car brand. This one is quite simple, a flying baseball. So yeah, tell me which team it is. Of course, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. What about this S? What does it stand for? That's Seat, a Spanish car brand. This one is famous worldwide. Do you know this organization? That's the United Nations. Any thoughts here? That's Tree Hut, a personal care brand. Not knowing this one is almost illegal. Yes, it's 21 Pilots. You see it all the time. Can you recognize it? It's Pantene, of course, a shampoo. Do you know what this logo is? It's Chicago Cubs, the famous baseball team. Okay, this one's a bit harder. What do you say? It's the logo of Billie Eilish. Do you know this one? It's Swatch, a watch brand. I just removed the name. Does it ring a bell? Red Hot Chili Peppers, the band. Quite a fancy logo. What is it? The New Orleans Saints, a football team. Okay, a needle. Do you know the brand? It's Cole Haan. It's a luxury footwear brand. Look, that's a great one. Any ideas? That's Starlink. It's an internet constellation operated by SpaceX that delivers internet to remote areas. This one for sure looks fancy. So, ideas? That's Parker. They make those crazy expensive pens. Everyone knows this penguin, but wait, where did you see it? On books, it's the logo of Penguin Random House, a huge publisher. Okay, here's a GE logo. What does it mean? General Electric. This one is quite famous. Do you know it? It's the New England Patriots, a football team from Boston. Do you know this logo? It's Roxy. Easy peasy. What is it? It's Google Classroom. A logo you probably know because everybody does. What is this? Queen, the band. This one is hard but definitely worth a try. Any guesses? It's the World Bank. This one is almost like TikTok, but different of course. What is it? That's Likey. Do you have any clue what this is? That's the logo of the Los Angeles Chargers, a football team. Do you know this organization? That's the logo of the International Monetary Fund. What about this one? Do you recognize the logo? That's Happn, a dating app. Any thoughts here? It shouldn't be too hard. Cat related, obviously. It's Shiba, a cat food brand. I bet you know it. That's Philips. Maybe not the most famous one, but the ball and the letter give enough hints. Los Angeles Clippers, a basketball team. What do you think this logo is? That's Macmillan Publishers, a huge book publisher. What about this logo? Have you ever seen it before? That's the logo of the European Union. Do you recognize this one? That's CapCut, a video editing app. Any thoughts on this one? Yeah, it's AutoZone. What do you say about this one? Any ideas? Pittsburgh Steelers, another football team for you. And now it's time for the final type of task. It's the hardest one. I'll show you just a little piece of a logo, and you have to recognize it. Do you think you can manage? Let's check. Here's the first one for you, a very easy one. Any guesses? It's Safari. Yeah, nothing too hard again. You know it well. What do you say? That's the Olympics. Yeah, I'm being way too nice, but keep enjoying it while it lasts. What is it? That's Wikipedia, of course. Another easy one for you. Hit it. Yep, that's Metallica. Now, things are getting harder. What is this? That's Alcatel. Good. Any thoughts here? That's Ray-Ban. Okay, I'll give you a break. Where is this piece from? That's Toys R Us, of course. Super simple. You have my respect if you know it. That's the World Health Organization. So, any thoughts? The Brooklyn Nets basketball team, of course. Nothing hard. What is this logo? Aha, that's Lacoste. Any ideas about where these squares come from? Aha, that's GoPro. Did you get it right? Do you have any thoughts on this one? That's corn. Tell me what this is. That's Funimation. Do you recognize this face? Yes, you have definitely seen it on Planters Peanuts. Okay, I have to admit I wouldn't guess it myself, but maybe you will. Trust me, you know this brand very well. Faber-Castell, they produce stationaries. So, how'd you do? Let me know how many points you got in the comments below.